Today's guest joins us having followed his passion into the fitness industry in 2014. His desire to help people took over at this point, meaning progression into leadership roles came around relatively quickly. Now a gym manager in the Manchester area for Pure Gym, as well as a life and mindset coach, he's an advocate of NLP and strategic management being vessels that allow others to unlock their potential. Really looking forward to this one and the elaboration of all things pre-2014. We give you Mr. Marc McLaren. Hello, mate.
Hey, how are you doing, gents?
Yeah, good.
Fantastic.
How are you?
Oh, I feel that important after that now. How do I follow that? Now, first off, guys, massive thank you for having me on. I was kind of secretly hoping this day had come. I've seen the podcast released in
on the cards, to be fair. It's just that things with this lockdown and stuff, things just getting on.
Yeah,
we've struggled to even get some out, mate. To be fair.
Yeah, I'm with you. But no, fantastic to be on. Nice one. Yeah, me starting from the early days. So I'll keep it brief to start off with, and then we'll go off on them tangents that I'm known for probably. If I go too far out, you'll just have to rein me back in a little bit.
That's all right, mate.
But, yeah, humble beginnings for myself. So I grew up in South Manchester. I'm from Whalley Range originally. Absolute loving family. Mum and dad, both of my life growing up. Absolutely all the love I could get. Massive, great childhood. Although we grew up on a housing estate in Whalley Range, wouldn't change it for the world. As I grew up, got a bit older, got into my teens, into school, kind of seen a little bit of the other side of life, and kind of scraped through school. Did finish school with my GCSE, scraped my 5, got the important ones, got the maths and the English and that sort of thing. So I can read and write. That's a start.
Hey, I'm fucking shit at maths, but I'm great on Excel. So that's all I need to know.
There you go, mate. I didn't realise Excel was such a life hack until I went to the management. And I was like,
mate, I can't do any of it. Full
No, yeah, left school. So sort of the love that I talked about and the fact that I had both my parents in my life. And I'll reference back to that in a little bit why I say that, because sort of the people I grew up around was kind of from broken families, and I've seen a lot of that sort of stuff going on. My parents were very loving. Dad's Jamaican, mum's Irish. What a combination. But the love was there. So even after leaving school and kind of scraping through, my parents made sure that regardless of what I was doing outside and what I was involved in, whether they liked it or not, I kind of carried on to some further education. So I ended up going to college, got myself a BTEC in IT, and then managed to get an apprenticeship with a large structural engineering firm where I was a structural CAD technician. So this was all going on sort of through college years into sort of up to early 20s. At the same time,
what made you jump into that, mate? Like structural engineering, what made you jump into that?
Kind of being a bit naive, and in the early days, I didn't really know where I wanted to go. And the way sort of my parents have got the love, and obviously, as we all do for kids coming up, we want the best, don't we? So I think I was sort of steered into, you need to get a job, you need to get something solid, something with a bit of foundation, a bit of backing, which I now realise we'll get into a little bit is not the way to go. Personally, just my opinion. I'm more of a passion follower. But yeah, it kind of got me into a job which was a solid job at the time. It was boring, didn't enjoy it. But the money was half decent. And the only reason I actually left there was because I got made redundant. There was sort of, the arts fell out of the market and all stuff that was going on back then, and I got made redundant. So what happened then was I fell out of work and kind of fell back to the streets a little bit, to where I was, at the time, I'd have said I was a product of my environment.
Yeah.
Because I had a bit of a victim mindset, obviously having what had just happened with my upbringing, the things I'm seeing around me, sort of losing friends, seeing stuff that most people probably see in films on a day-to-day. And having lost my job and being thrown back to that and kind of being like, what do I do now? I've got to kind of get it how I live it. So it kind of made me a product of my environment back then with a victim mindset.
It's easy to do that though, isn't it, as well, mate? Yeah, it's easy to say, like, when bad things are happening and you go back to your estate and stuff, it's easy to just go, well, fuck it. This is what I am. So I'm just going to.
It certainly is, mate. It certainly is. I'm with you on that. Yeah, you understand the same way.
Do you think part of that is like ultimately we all want a purpose, don't we? And I suppose once that job, that purpose has been taken away, you're trying to, in whatever environment you're in, you're looking for some sort of purpose. And if that gives you something to get up and go and do each day, do you think it was part of that? Or
definitely, I reckon there was an element of that there. I also feel like there is, for various reasons, and we could go down serious rabbit holes there now, there is a bit of a stigma or a negative connotation that comes with coming from certain areas or being in a certain environment. And I don't think that necessarily has to be the way, which is kind of jumping the gun a little bit here, but alongside the stuff that I'm doing in my current job role or career that I'm doing now, I've got a lot of stuff going on the side where I've got an approach and some stuff going on in the background to get into schools at the moment, kind of sort of central or more deprived or bereft sort of areas in Manchester. So the whole COVID thing's kind of slowed things down. So it's been going on since we went back in early September, but trying to get in and sort of be a figure that can change their mindset. Because coming from them areas, at the end of the day, we're never gonna create a utopia. It's gonna be, there's always gonna be struggles there. But what people need to realize is that rather than coming out of there and having a mindset of that, oh, this is what I've been through, this is where it came from, these are the struggles that I've been through, no wonder I'm not achieving, no wonder I've not got a job, I'm not doing well. They need to flip that on its head, a complete paradigm shift, and just think, right, I've been through all this. I'm better off than all these people who've had a silver spoon, who've had a great upbringing, because they've not been through anything.
Yeah,
I've got the depth, I've got the strength, I've got the guile to get through. Nothing else can faze me now. And it's like you say, it's easy to say these things. It's taken me 21 years. I'm 37 next month, you know what I mean? So it's taken me a long time, and I've traveled
47.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time. I've traveled the road to get here, and that's kind of why, number one, I'm so passionate about it, having come from there, and I know it can be done. And it's absolutely criminal when I'm looking, I'm seeing the kids now. So I'm focusing on 14 to 18-year-olds going forward. But there we go, one of them tangents already. I've not even got through the intro.
Do you think, like, it's just when you're in it sometimes, when you're in it, it's tough to see ahead, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like making those ends meet and having to, like, because you're so focused on month to month or like whatever that environment is going on and all of those things that are sort of warping your mindset, I suppose. Like, it's tough to take that step back, isn't it? Unless you've got someone in there that, like, I had a tutor at college who was exactly that. Like, he's someone that I always talk about now, to be fair, because if it wasn't for him, he completely flipped the way that I looked at that sort of stuff. Because obviously when you're younger, you see these people with big chains, big cars, like you think that they've got everything, they've got all the money, they're the people of power, if they walk into a room, they're the ones that people look up to. But actually, if you reframe it, they're probably really insecure. They don't have much direction, and they don't really know any other way. And there's more to it. And I think if it wasn't for the tutor that I had at college, he completely changed the way I looked at it. So the fact that you're going into schools is massive.
What's mad is like we've talked about this before. Like Dan's had like figures that's got him, that's helped him get out of that. And I'm guessing you did. Like, I struggled, I didn't have that. And it was only until my girlfriend got pregnant was when it changed my mindset. And it not with Leilani, obviously the one before. And it was mad, mate, because that's what switched my mind. I didn't have like a father figure or somebody up there to gain or learn from. And I come into it late, or I learned all this, all the what you need to know in terms of getting out of the rut that you're in. Like, I learned that just that being told you're going to be a dad. That's what happened.
100%. 100%, guys. 100%. I feel I'm exactly the same as you, Martin, and I feel like Dan, the guy that you're talking about, and the mentor figure that you had there, absolute blessing. And that's something that I'm sort of trying to get back in and create. And the plans that are going in my head, like I say, I'm on a mad thing here now. So the plans long term, I'm talking large scale. I'm not talking Manchester. I'm not even necessarily talking UK. I'm looking to start something here that's going to go above and beyond. But I think a turning point for me was, like I say, same as you, Martin. So my daughter was born in 2014, and I kind of let me go back a touch. I'm all over the place. So when we were going through all the things we've just been through and kind of got sucked back into that motion, I was still in and out of various jobs, but I was also living that life, fully living that life, and was around certain characters and certain people who are still friends to this day, a lot of them, genuine people, but complete different mindset. And as hard as you try or anybody tries, that mindset is never going to shift for some people. So a turning point for me was, my daughter was born in 2014, and that was it, a realization of, right, bam, this is it, I've got to make it work. And first off, again, not knowing how to do that, you sort of try your own things, but then you think, oh, you've got a little one now to take care of, you can't afford to get into trouble or go that route. So it straightens you out a tad. And then when you straightened that, for me, it was like, I didn't know how to channel the energy efficiently. So I was working 3 jobs. When I joined, started PTing at Pure Gym, it was a 3rd job. So I worked 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday in the day. Pure Gym shifts in the evening, Saturday morning, and I worked security doors as well, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. I was working 80 plus hours for over a year. Wow. And for me, that was like, obviously it phased me, it got to me. Your physiology changes over time and you think, nah, I'm invincible, like Kevin Gates. Might know about Kevin Gates when you get to that. But genuinely, it was like I was doing it because I had a higher purpose, and because my daughter came into the world, I knew I had to do it, but I didn't know how to channel it. So again, it's something else that I'm just trying to, first off, change the mindset and create that paradigm shift we talked about. So the belief system's in place, because obviously behaviors only come behind beliefs, the changing beliefs. But when that's in place as well, the realization that you don't just have to do it by working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can be smart about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's, it's a similar story for the 3 of us, I can see that. But yeah, I honestly wish I would have had someone like that growing up. As I say, both my parents, they're absolutely all love in the world. But I think parents' love and kind of taking that on board when you're in that environment it's a hard thing to do, isn't it? You don't really see it like that. You kind of see your peers and what's going out there and getting it quickly over the common sense, really. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's massive, and it's quite honest, really, because some people they tend to sort of veer away from that, and I think like that honesty is a huge opportunity for people to then look at people like yourself and even, you know, aspire to go down a similar route. Like I say, the fact that you're going into schools to have those conversations with people is no doubt going to make a massive impact. So no, that's great, mate. It's good to hear. So
yeah,
like,
fingers crossed.
What sort of what would you say your main thing, like your main focus is now with going into those schools, with life coaching, with changing people's mindsets? Like, why that?
Well, it's kind of getting into personal training to start off with, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. Don't do as much now just because I'm very, is anal the right words? With my diary now, I have an A4 database diary, and I don't want to overdo it. As I say, I've worked 80 odd hours a week for prolonged periods of time. And right now, I'm at the stage where I'm trying to be efficient. So there's a lot in there, and I'm still working 50 plus hours a week. But then I'm also putting my daughter into my diary and my missus into my diary, so I don't get them stern looks, you know what I mean? Get in trouble. But what's happened now with it, the PT's dropped off, and that's kind of taken over as a passion. So I think the passions come from, first off, the personal training and helping people get genuine results. That progression then going into management has allowed me to sort of see from a different perspective. And I really fell in love with management when I realized that I'm a leader and not a manager. Now, this is probably outside of my head, this probably sounds mad, but I don't like the term manager.
No, I agree, mate. I think you're probably speaking to 2 people who are on the same wave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys will know even more than me. I come to the realization within the last couple of months when I was talking to someone that in my 5+ years at Pure Gym, as a manager, I've now worked with over 100 personal trainers, just over 100 personal trainers. That'll be even more for you guys in the role that you're working in. So it kind of gives you that background to see people come and go, try different things, and the enjoyment that comes from seeing people succeed, especially when that's somebody who was not looking like they were going to succeed. When someone comes in and sits down or thanks you or brings you a bottle of wine, some wine guy, and says, listen, mate, thank you so much. You've really done this or you've done that or you've changed my mindset. And I'm like, you're blown away. You guys will know the same. Do you know what I mean? So that's what kind of pushed me that route, down the leadership route. And without trying to sound too big-headed, coming from where I'm coming from, and the background that we just talked about and where I'm looking to go with it, I'm almost putting the pressure on my own shoulders. I don't see pressure from anyone else. All my pressure comes from myself. I've got very high expectations of myself, and I see myself going this route as a visionary. And that sounds quite extreme. I sound like Kanye West. But,
mate, you've got to though. You've got to have that mindset. And you've got to think like that. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, mate.
It is, and it's crazy now because I'm at the stage now where we're talking here now, and I'll be jotting down notes because this is another trait that I've taken off. I'll do one-to-ones or business or mindset development sessions with PTs, with other managers, with assistant managers I've been working with recently. And I'll take just as much out of the session as them every session. I'll be talking to them and a little penny will drop on. I'll be writing my own notes down, do you know what I mean? So it's like I found my calling. It sounds mad, yeah? Whether you believe in God or a higher being or whatever it is, I found my calling. Now this is me. So my words is this, I found it and there's a lot more to come. It's effortless as well. When you're doing these things, it's not effort, do you know what I mean? It's not a chore. I bounce out of bed in the morning thinking, right, who've got today or what have I got today? So the probably downside for me at the moment, or not even the downside because it's taking me where I want to go, or probably for my employer at the moment, is that there's an expiry date on the current role that I'm doing because, like I said, I'm not a manager, and within the management term, there comes a lot of other stuff that I'm not wasting my time with because it's got a purpose, but my time could be, and the what I've got up here and what I'm trying to express could be much better channeled and a lot more better spent, you know what I mean? So
you mentioned leadership. You mentioned leadership there, and I think that'll be a good one for us to delve into a little bit. Do you think that leadership style or that leadership element of someone is teachable, or do you think it lives within certain characters and then it forms or it blossoms? Where do you sit on that, mate?
Personally, I think it's innate. I think it's in people. I think people are leaders. Certain traits can be taught, certainly, but I think the further they get down the line and the more testing things get and the more people you are leading, so to speak, if you're not a true leader, then I think that your true colours will show over time. I do think there is leadership in the term, but we're all on the same page. So we see leadership as someone who empowers others rather than I see a manager. Not all managers, but a manager.
It's serving, right? Like that leadership element. You're actually serving others rather than them serving you.
Exactly.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, certainly. And empowering other people to be the best version of themselves rather than saying, right, this is what you need to do, go and do it. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to be good, you need to follow my list here. That's not that. We sit down and we talk to them on a level and we open the mind, change the beliefs, which will improve the behaviors, which will then in turn make them be the best version of themselves. So I definitely think it's innate, but when I say innate, I don't think we're born and we're in school, like in nursery, like, yeah, come on, mate, like, I'm the leader. We all say that, don't we? Like, I'll be the leader. I think you have to be in the right environment for it to come out. Yeah. Because as much as I say it, and I believe that, like I just said then, I think I'm a leader in my own right and a bit of a visionary. When I was growing up, that certainly wasn't the case. When I was about in cars or on the streets with the boys and doing whatever we were doing back in the day, I didn't by any means see myself as that person. And even beyond that, even in more recent adult life, I feel like the more it's developed more and more, I've kind of put myself through different qualifications, like say the life coaching. I'm currently studying to be an NLP practitioner, strategic management and leadership is the next one. All this stuff I'm doing, it brought out the leader in me, but I didn't express it and put it onto other people until you kind of shake off the chains, you know what I mean? It's kind of a stigma that comes with it. And to a degree, as much as I seem a confident person and I preach all the stuff I preach, and I've got my social media and I put out something recently and be you, don't worry what other people think. There's always that element of it. And even when I felt like I had the tools, probably in the past 3, 4, 5 years ago, I had the tools and I could help people. Unless it was a one-to-one personal training sort of setting, I'd get in front of a bunch of people, or as you guys do, in front of a bunch of managers or new business startups and PTs. And I'd be like, I'd question myself, am I worthy? Like, who am I to tell these people how to do this? Do you know what I mean? But once you get over that and you've got a bit of backing and the passion just takes over and it flows and you just run from there. But I definitely, back to the question, we're on a tangent again. Back to the question, I definitely think it's innate, but it needs the right environment. it needs watering, and it needs
on that.
Needs
just
feeding.
On that, like I've just written here. Do you think everyone has the ability to be a leader? They just need to be in the right environment for them, or do you think there's only certain individuals that are able to be leaders? Because all I'm thinking is, like, if you put me in an environment that I've got absolutely no clue about, or it's not a passion of mine or whatever, I'm not sure how that would. Don't know, like, would I lead in that environment? I'm not sure, but I'm just thinking of people I went to school with that in school maybe weren't leaders in any way, shape or form, but maybe if they were in, you know, the right environment that was a passion of theirs, that it would bring it out of them. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think it's more like, I think you said it before about being the leader. You teach people to have belief. So it's not only do you teach them beliefs, but it's them to have belief within themselves. And if you're not within that environment or that setting, you're going to struggle to believe that you can lead. So I do think 100% that it's in you. You are a leader. It's in you. It's there, and you have to find it or get it from somewhere. And I think it can be in multiple people. But what I feel is, if they're not in the right environment or around the right people that give them the belief, then that won't come out. And they'll always feel like they have to follow, which I hate the word followers. But I think that, what do you think on that?
100%. I'm with you. That's pretty much the road I was going to go down there in response to Dan's question. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of leaders or would-be leaders, could have been leaders, that have not really exuded that because of the environment, and they've not had the right mentor. The mentor's a great one, back to what Dan said earlier on, and he had that when he was growing up. If I wouldn't have sort of found my passion, I like to think that I would have found it one way or another. But if I wouldn't have found my passion and probably fell into the industry that I had, it'd be interesting to see the route I would have gone and would have really found this passion and found my calling. And then again, it comes down to your beliefs, do you know what I mean? And when we say beliefs, we have to distinguish between beliefs and hopes, do you know what I mean? It's all good. Yeah, really, one day I'll be something. You've got to have the backing, you've got to put the work in the background for it to become a belief. Do you know what I mean? No matter how many times you reaffirm, write down your affirmations or chant your incantations or whatever it is, you've got to practice it. You've got to be putting the work in the background to bring that belief on.
I think a big thing on beliefs there as well is, as you say, when you mention environments and stuff that you're around, like when you're in that environment, that might not be one that facilitates positivity or it facilitates progress or whatever. There's things that are going to reaffirm the beliefs that you have in that. Do you get what I mean? So
yeah,
if you, as you said, the phrase you used was in the streets or in the roads or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're making money and people are looking up to you, that's going to reaffirm to you that this is a good thing to do. It's a positive thing to do. So I think, and then like, as soon as you get to challenging those beliefs, I posted about it the other day, but that's when fireworks start to come into play. And I suppose that's the skill of asking the right questions, the NLP stuff that you're looking into at the moment,
exactly.
and leading people out of those beliefs without you actively challenging them, because you're going to hit a brick wall, aren't you, if you challenge people's beliefs from the offset, right? Especially if they've seen success in that.
Exactly, yeah, I'm with you, mate. And I think for me, there's tried and tested ways that it's gone on, and there's that many different ways. There's the NLP, there's all sorts of stuff that's going on. But what we kind of do as a leader, when you've got the education and you are a leader and you're not kind of reading from a script, a true leader, I feel, will take different parts from education all over the place and you use that to try and get a desired result, which won't be the same for every person you work with. You obviously know that everybody's different, will have different triggers. But I think fantastic point when you're getting it how you live, as we talked about earlier on, and you're doing well or you're doing okay with that, and it's coming quite easy, and you don't really know much else, it can be hard to break that. But if you have got a mentor figure, then it then comes down to breaking the current beliefs or breaking the cycle. But even when you break it, then the desire to get to the new place that you've created or the new goal that person has to outweigh the old position or the pain that's coming from the current position. Do you know what I mean? So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. I think everybody's different, but I think it can be done. I think everybody can be helped, and maybe that's a little bit naive. I've been told actually, working with assistant managers and whatever, that's a weakness for me, and I kind of agreed with, to be fair. working with people where they're giving nothing back, and rather than any other environment that have probably been out of the job or out of the role a lot of time previous, I'm kind of sticking in and trying to now we'll get to the bottom of him here. We'll make a change, we'll create, and if it doesn't happen, I sort of see it as a failure on my part rather than that person's part.
Yeah. I think there's a readiness element to that, isn't there? Do you get what I mean? Like a state of readiness. Are they at the point now where they're ready to change? And I suppose that is sometimes a timing element, isn't it? Just thinking to PTs that might be listening, that may have clients where they feel like they're banging heads against brick walls, or mentors that are working with people that just aren't implementing what it is. I suppose you can come at that from different angles, can't you? Number one, are they ready? Have you found out whether they're actually ready yet? But number two, have you asked the right questions to delve into what their motivators are?
Yeah, and that's, as I touched on earlier on, we all have our own ways of doing things, but I've put together a bit of a plan now. And as I say, we're going properly with it now, so it's all letterheaded. I'll send you across the stuff that I've got, so you guys can have a look with all the layout and what have you. So depending on obviously the leadership style, or you guys will know how you get into people, I have a sort of a breakdown of going into self-reflection for the person, which after initial interview, whether that be face-to-face or telephone or whatever it is, and really get to making them think a why, because the why for me, anyone who knows me will know that's ultimate. Yeah, that is your why. So when you've got a big enough why, it will outweigh anything else. Nothing else matters. If your why is big enough, you'll find a way to get to the end goal. You'll find an outcome. From the why, we go into setting goals, smart goals, so the measurable, etc. From there, we go into reaffirming the belief system, into time management and energy allocation, because there's so much negative stuff about that can draw on your energy. So there's a lot to go through there. So I think when you've got the backing of all that to drop back on, if someone's, like you say, willing and ready to give you the time and the actual energy to dig deep into themselves with the backing of all that, and obviously the physiological side where people need to be the peak state, that's a big thing for me. And when I say a peak state, for anyone who's watching, you guys will know what I'm talking about. I run a peak state in my house at home. So yesterday I was working late, so I woke up in the morning, it's half term, the daughter's off school, and I came down yesterday morning, and about 7:30 in the morning, we're having breakfast, and I was a bit slumped and I'm tired. The little one saying, "Oh, I'm tired, they've not got the cereal, the one and there," and the missus has got working from home, and she sat there like that. I looked around and I was like, what kind of place is this to be? Especially with what I'm trying to preach, and do you know what I mean? So it was peak state time. We turned on the music, and what song was on now? It was Dennis Ferrer, Hey Hey. So the TV went on.
Mate. You'd have to sing it. You'd have to sing it for me.
Yeah, I'll do that later. Yeah. So we turned it up to 100, and we've had a mad one. We're jumping, having pillow fights, and do you know what I mean? And when I talk about changing your physiology, that's another thing. So you'll have a lot of people who it's in there, especially with the backing, the structure we put together to help them. We can, I believe, in anyone create a paradigm shift completely, where this is a new channel of thought and they set out the goals. But there's certain people who are just physiologically, they're not up for it for whatever reason. They might have stuff going on at home. It's easy to be that way nowadays with what's going on in the world. So for me, another rabbit hole, I won't go too far down there now, but I think the mainstream media and the government are responsible for a lot. So when we're turning on the TV, social media, whatever it may be, newspapers on a day-to-day, and we're seeing loads of dread. And don't get me wrong, these things are happening. I'm a realist, so we need to know these things are happening. But it's all we're getting drilled with. And straight away, that's affecting us. That's affecting us on a physiological level, because we're affecting
100%.
dopamine, we're affecting serotonin.
Kids, do you remember when we was younger and we was in, and you watch the news, they'd do all the bad stuff, but they'd always finish on a good note.
Yeah.
Always.
To have you exactly where they want you to be, yeah.
If you look at the news now, don't do that. We finish on the worst story. And that's what they do. Or the weather, which is terrible. Yeah. That's what they do. Yeah. Sorry, I jumped in, mate, but like,
especially in Manchester, like Manchester weather.
Yeah, like I said, sorry I jumped in, but like it's true what you said, and it just triggered something for me there. When I was younger, I didn't mind watching the news. Do you know what I mean? Now I won't let my daughter watch the news. I won't let her watch it because there's nothing positive that comes out of that, which then
crazy,
puts you in a different mindset. And it's at 9 p.m. Like, do you know what I mean? When you're about to go to bed. And I'm a massive believer in, like, if you go to bed on a low, you're going to wake up even lower. And
exactly.
And just as far back as since she was born, I always used to make sure that she goes to bed feeling happy and excited for the next day, which touches on everything you just said there. And that news thing, you're 100% right. I do apologize for jumping in.
No. I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. And they're not stupid. There's people behind it. And we could, as I say, we could go on and on and on into all sorts with that. But I think they dictate your mood. As I say, it actually affects you and your physiology in terms of your emotions change, it's affecting serotonin, dopamine, the releases you get and you associate with certain things. They can, in effect, attach a negative connotation to things that we would have once seen as neutral or even positive. And I think that has a lot to bear on things. So I think as much as we're educated and we know what we want to do and how we're trying to do it, sometimes to get that going and to trigger that, or most times, from my experience, we need to create a peak state. So you guys will know when you've worked with trainers or managers in the past where you'll have someone and you go and talk to them and they're just down. And after a while or a couple of meetings, you'll get to knowing that the first 10 to 15 minutes of that conversation, it can't be work. It needs to be banter. It needs to be whatever football team they support, or did you watch the MMA, or you know what I mean? Did you watch the comedy the other night? I'm going to send it to you, and do you know what I mean? Just something to perk them up. Because when they get that release of endorphins then positively, then they're going to react differently. And it's going to be completely different, it's going to be completely different in the responses they give you and the input that they give you. So I think there's a lot to answer for there, but we're kind of covering all angles, you know what I mean? We're kind of covering all angles. So there's a lot to give. I'm excited. It just gets me so excited, honestly. I'll sit around, I'll even be in work or working with certain people, or like you now with you guys, and I'm probably going on a mad one with these tangents, and I get talking fast and I'm excited, but there's even more going on in my head. If it sounds like it's like this, then in my head it's dancing, do you know what I mean? So it's just trying to channel it with the right energy and get it across in the right manner, which, believe it or not, looking at me now, has come on a million times from where it used to be.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to the future and where we'll be 5 to 10 years from now. Do you know what I mean? I'll just say off the back of that as well, a massive turning point for me was when it became about more than me. So as Martin said, when he had his little one, and that was a turning point, when you're doing something for other than yourself, for a family member, or to make a change for your kids. But what's happened from there now is everything that I'm doing is bigger than me. And yes, I'm going to hopefully eat off it and my family will be okay. But even beyond my family, and when I think about what I'm trying to do for these youths or these people from a certain background and change it, that paradigm shift to keep talking about, and changing people's lives in that manner, that's what fuels me. And it's even led to, as I say, I don't do a lot of PT nowadays. And this taking over, and in essence, starting out, so I'm still in the early stages, I'm not paid for this. So just as a bit of an eye-opener for people, I took a massive hit in my income, which I'm not, by any means, I'm not moaning about, because I realise that's what needs to be done, especially starting out to do this. But that's the level of passion and the level of selflessness that I feel is involved for this. If somebody's going in and trying to lead and trying to be a visionary and trying to create a better future, but in the back of the mind, all they want is, right, if I do that, then I'm going to earn 100 grand a year. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Do you know what I mean? It has to be genuine. It has to be selfless. The empathy has to be real, or else it's not going to work long term.
Yeah, I think, well, with any business, just a couple of things there. With any business, when it first starts, you're going to run at a loss, whether that's a loss in money, a loss in time. There's always going to be some sort of loss when you initially start a business.
Yeah.
But as you say, that purpose, that why, that's got to be bigger than you. And we've probably talked about it 1,000,001 times, but we're probably all on quite similar pages with little ones and stuff dotting about, and that's absolutely mine, mate. So I'm with both of you there on that, leaving a legacy. And I suppose my mindset is almost a little bit sacrificial. Like I feel like I'm sacrificing myself to allow the generations, not just my daughters, but below those guys, to have a life that was much better than mine. And I know I've mentioned it on another one, but my other half always takes a piss because she's like, you just want us to be middle class, you do, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I do. I absolutely do. Like, I'm not even bothered about that. Like, that absolutely, I want to live in an area that's nice, that's not surrounded by X, Y, Z, and I want my girls to grow up in an area that is better for them, and their kids to grow up in an area that's better for them. So they have, it's almost that head start, isn't it? Like you say, I suppose that it's interesting, because I think when you do come from a council estate or whatever, you learn things from being within that environment. But then on the flip side to that, you've almost got a head start when you come from an environment that has a little bit of money behind it. So there's pros and cons to both, I think. What do you think? Would you agree?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier on, I kind of think that ideally we'd like to go bam and sprinkle a little dust, and we'd create this utopia where everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Or in essence, that's what people think is good. For me, a utopia wouldn't be great, because then you've got no stress, you've got nothing to push out, and everyone will just be mundane, and they'll just be like, yeah, well, this is it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, gone on a tangent there again. I think personally there's a lot to be taken from coming from another background, from seeing other things in life. So sort of where I've been and the people I've been around and the stories I can tell kind of prepare me for a lot. And they've given me strength to do a lot. They've given me the passion and the drive to go after what I'm sort of chasing at the moment, and the road that I'm going down. So as much as it might work out that people are coming from sort of higher social settings, and the kids have gone to a better school and they've had more financial backing, that's not necessarily better off, as you say. I think they do get a head start. They have got a good education from the off. But what I'm saying now is, what we're trying to do with this whole plan that we're putting together now is become a visionary for the kids from these other areas that are more deprived, where I'm not just talking about the schools are bereft, but the mindset's bereft of any belief. So if we can create that and give them the sort of basis and the belief to go forward, then they've already got the other side, and they've seen the upbringing, and they've been through some stuff, and they've seen the mum struggle that's going to fuel them. Do you know what I mean? So that sort of guile and having that backing and the heart that they've got and grown from that, hopefully, to then be given the vision, it kind of, the only downside from that is that they might be a few years behind in terms of the education. And that's another thing, because people look now and think, oh yeah, I'm late, they've all got degrees, they've been university and this and that and the other. Unless you've got plans of going anywhere in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, you know what I mean? Especially these kids that I'm talking about are 14 to 18. That's a very impressionable level. If we can get to them at that stage, okay, you might be a few years behind. You might need to go to college and reset your GCSE to then get your A-levels, to then go to uni, if that's the route you want to go. But I'm hoping these kids are planning on being around to 40, 50, 60 years of age. So they've got 30 plus years to go. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody wants everything now. But when they get the realization that they're here for the long term and that it's doable. I think that's something, a massive one for me.
I think that's something I took from, so I listened to Gary Vee quite a bit, to be fair. And I think that's something I took from him. Like, life is long. And there's no set date that you've got to have a house by. There's no set date that you've got to have a degree by. There's like, you live in your own life, and a lot of times people go and feel like they have to match up to these expectations because they put other people's opinions ahead of their own. Like going to get those nice houses, going to get those nice cars, like,
and that's down to belief as well.
Yeah, and they're getting it for other people. They're not buying it for themselves. Like, everyone takes a piss out of me because I've still got the same car that I had 6-7 years ago. Do you know? But I'm not bothered. Like, I'm not interested in cars. I'd rather use that money for something else. As long as that car's running and it gets me from A to B and it's comfortable.
Yeah, of course.
I'm happy with that. But I think to what you're saying there, I think that's a huge one, that like having people to, like, allowing people to think that actually I haven't got a set timeline that I've got to achieve this by. Is university the right way for me? Would I be better off going to open a business? Would I be better off going and creating something for myself? What mindset am I in? Am I even able to work for other people? Does that work for me? Like, there's loads of different paths that people can take from that, I think. And I think you bang on, mate. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, Dan, what you're saying there, it's definitely a thing for the mainstream masses. It's a thing. Everybody wants to impress everybody else, and I'm saying that now. I hold my hands up. I've been that person. Although I've always had the empathetic side, and I've always wanted to help and gone above and beyond when someone's needed that in that regard. Even when I started as a personal trainer, And I was the guy that was always on social media with his shirt off, do you know what I mean? Like, no, let me be socially accepted, like I've got a six-pack and all that, I'm in shape. Do you understand what I'm saying, mate? And I've been through that phase, and I just see that as a phase that I've gone through, but that again is down to your beliefs. And what's
it's a learning though, right? Like it's a learning that, like you've learned.
Yeah, of course it is.
And now
I think a lot of it, again, is back to what we talked about within the mainstream media, within what's put out on social media and what's seen as acceptable. As an example, I am now doing the things that we've discussed already in terms of trying to get into the schools and working more as a mindset and development coach with a bit of life coaching, which I can then help new business startups or the PTs with from a leadership perspective. All this stuff I'm doing and I'm putting out on a pretty much a daily basis at the moment. And the sort of likes and responses that it's getting in comparison to what used to come back if you took a picture with your shirt off after a workout saying like, yeah, sick workout. It's mad. And this is the world we live in, because that's what's seen as socially acceptable. Do you understand? And it's only the few individuals that are at that stage of their journey and progressed enough mentally to understand that you're doing something real here. For the mainstream masses, it's like, oh, look at that there, look. And that gets a like.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I've been there. I'm not by any.
I think that like it's a real worry of mine that obviously with two girls floating about, like I've just written down here, how do you think we sort of get around those social influences and people feeling like they have to be accepted in the environments they're in? Like how do you think we get around that with kids? Like I say, for me, with two young girls, them going on social, like I'm really, really wary of what they're going on, how they're going to feel. Like you hear it all the time, kids walking down the road and they're like, oh, I've got X amount of likes on this picture or this video that I put up on YouTube. And like in our house, it's like, don't worry about the, like, did you enjoy making that? Did you have fun when you were doing that? Like that's the sort of route that we tend to touch on. But what do you think? How do we get around that, mate, in your view?
I think it's a difficult one, mate. And I think I'm not sure, how old are your kids, Dan?
So Lacey's 9 and Olivia's 2, so she's happy with Winnie the Pooh, mate. She's all right with that.
So with your eldest one, similar age to Martin as well. You guys have got your workout. My little girl's 6 going on 7, going on 17. Yeah, she's not on social media at the moment. If she does, she'll have to go on my phone. She wants to go on Explore page and look at cakes because she loves cakes. She watches baking shows and all that, so she'll look at the cakes. But aside from that, she's not on social media or any of that stuff. For me, I think the kids, especially the teens that are so susceptible to it, I think it is a detrimental thing long term. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest guide towards it has got to be from home and sort of the settings that we put onto them and the realization that we make them have, that, like you say, it is about the making and the experience from it and that what it's going to give you, rather than just the likes and everybody saying, yeah, that's great. During lockdown, amongst other things, something I did with my daughter was I started a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So I've got one now for all the stuff we're doing now, but this was with my daughter, the coolest dad it was. And we did like baking challenges and making pizzas and an obstacle course in the back garden. And before that, the whole reason behind that was my daughter is dead bubbly, does dancing, gymnastics, all the rest of it. In the house, she's absolutely crazy. And put her in front of other kids or in a more social environment, or if you were to hold the phone up, not even recording, but she thinks it's going somewhere, she's into herself and she's like, I can already see that she's thinking what people are going to think, or did you put that on social, did you put that on Instagram? Or so that was a sort of effort to get her out of that and get her a little bit more comfortable and just be silly in front of the camera rather than be on there like you see the older kids pouting and with certain outfits on. And I know that's rich coming from me because, like I say, I've been that guy that was just doing it to understand. But, and like I say, I think the kids are a turning curve again when you realise it's bigger than you. And you need to instill them values in them from early on. But it's a difficult one because all kids will react differently. Yeah. And I'm also a believer, Dan, that if we're too strict with them, and we've all got girls, if we're too strict with the girls and say, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to like that picture, you can't go here, you can't have a boyfriend, you can't, do you know what I mean? Then they're going to potentially go the opposite way, depending on the environment and the friends they keep and that sort of thing. So there needs to be a middle ground.
It's that restriction, isn't it? I think, and it's very similar when you've got a client or you hear PTs say to a client, well, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. You got the thing that they want to do most then is go and do that. So it's that balance between, well, this is why, and giving them the reasons behind that so that they can understand it. But I suppose then it's like, when's their level of comprehension at the point that you're able to have those conversations? I suppose you're only going to know that when it's your own kids and you know them better than anyone else, I suppose, really. But no,
and it's a lot of the time, like you say, they don't even have to do the things that they're threatening to do or want to do. It just needs to seem tangible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they feel like they could do it if they wanted to, then they might not do it, or they might do it once and never do it again. So the more we restrict it, the more likely to go 2 feet in, and do you know what I mean? So of all the stuff we're talking about, all the difficult stuff, being at home as dad, that's the hardest.
Mad. No, that's great, mate. Like, I think we've covered loads there, to be fair. I've just got a last little question before we do the wrap up, if that's all right. Right. So for anyone that's really wanting to make a change, or is at a point where they feel like, right, now's the time, I'm ready to make a change, what would you say is maybe the first thing for them to, or maybe the thing that they should do and look to implement to begin that journey?
I think as long as they found the right thing, and when I say the right thing, it doesn't have to be the thing they do for the rest of their life, but something they're passionate about and a route they want to follow. Could branch off down the line, but a route they want to follow. Full on commitment. So I think there needs to be consistency there behind the beliefs. So the beliefs are a massive thing. So as I said earlier on, my go-to initially is a why. So every person, and you guys will know, setting up a new business startups, whether they be managers, whether they be PTs, whether they be people in general life, your why behind it has got to be real. And if your why is because it makes good money, then realistically, it's not going to last long term. Yeah, it needs to be a serious why. Then when I'm talking why, I'm talking about changing the life of your mum, changing the social class, creating a better future for your kids, leaving a legacy, something that goes above and beyond. And if you've got something there that's that deep, that'll fuel the rest of it. So once you've got that fuel in place, it's about consistency. So for me, as I say, I spent a prolonged period of time after my daughter was born working 3 jobs and 80+ hours a week. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be 12-hour days every day. Do you know what I mean? It has to be channeling your focus in the right places. It has to be taking the right content. I believe in mentors and somebody who's in a position that you desire to be in. And I also think that your time management and your energy allocation is a big one. So we talked about social media a lot. If you can channel your stuff down. So what I've done during lockdown was, on a tangent here again, the tangent man is coming up. I got rid of my Apple Music. And people who know me, amongst other jobs, I used to be a DJ, producer. I'm massively into the music. I got rid of Apple Music. I have still got music, but in favor of YouTube Premium, just because of the content that YouTube is putting out. And when I say content, I'm talking subscriptions and channels from everyone from the likes of Gary Vee to Eric Thomas to Tony Robbins to Brendan Butchard to the list goes on. And they're putting content out almost daily, whether that be motivational content, whether that be seminars, whether that be, and I can still get my music on there as well. So rather than me getting in the car now and plugging my phone in and the phone straight away comes onto some rap, or don't get me wrong, I'm into the music, it pops up now and it'll come onto a podcast, or it'll be a Joe Rogan with a Harvard professor, or do you know what I mean? So when you're kind of channeling your focus to where you want to be with that, with your social media, I didn't even know till lockdown that on social media on your explore page, I'm sat there and I'm saying to Mrs., what's all this? Like, what? How did it determine your explore? Like, I don't want to see all this. Do you know what I mean? And what can't I channel it to like what I want? And she's like, yeah, click on the picture and you can click on the 3 dots. And it's like, don't show again, like this topic, whatever hashtag it was. And it just, my mind was blown. Talking about the little things. So now if I go onto my Instagram, I could talk about the mainstream media and the massive social media putting out things that I don't want to take on board because it's zapping my energy. And I want to channel my energy into the things I want to focus on. You can get rid of the things. There's a life hack for everyone. You can get rid of the things you don't want to see. So if you don't want to see the shirt off or bikini pics, if you don't want to see whatever it is, or the cars or whatever it is, you can channel and follow certain hashtags and you can forget the rest of the things. So I go on there now and everything on there is channeled towards one focus. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you can kind of channel that focus a little bit, it'll help a lot. But getting started, man. I know I've just said a lot there, but get started, that's the first thing. A lot of people have the ideas in the mind, and I've been thinking about this stuff for years. Like, one day I want to do this, and I've been telling our kid, speaking to my missus, yeah, one day. And when's one day? Do you know what I mean? So get started. The day I got started, that was it. It just snowballs from there, and Lord knows where we'll go. We'll see where we end up.
Yeah. No, that's big. Yeah, exactly that. Just get started and then go from there. So that's great, mate. Buzzing off that. So we've got a couple of questions that we wrap up the episodes with.
Okay.
So I'm sure Mr. Love will go in with the first one.
Yeah. So if dinner party one, right?
Yeah.
So if you're hosting a dinner party, you can have 3 guests, living or dead, live or dead. What 3 guests are you picking and why?
Ooh. 33 take. 33.
No, just 3.
Okay. How long is this dinner? Is it extended dinner this year? Is it wine there and stuff? I'm gonna say Nipsey Hussle.
Shout.
Nipsey Hussle, that's my guy. Honestly, reasoning why anybody who knows Nip far more than a rapper, this guy literally flabbergasted me for everything from his vocabulary and his outlook on life and where he came from, obviously with the struggles that he went through, but how much of a businessman he was. Again, giving back what he was starting back in the ends from where he came from and what he put together in sort of education and sort of free-flowing education and platforms to grow. That guy was a visionary. Talking about visionaries, jeez. Yeah. So yeah, definitely Nipsey Hussle. I'm gonna say, I got me at the spot here. Tony Robbins. I'm gonna say Tony Robbins. Yeah. For obvious reasons. And this guy, I think a lot of people think he's a motivational speaker. He's not. He's definitely not. Not sure how deep you guys have delved into Tony Robbins, but very, very intelligent individual. Focused on a lot of the similar things that I focus on as well. He's very big into NLP, into belief systems, into creating a why behind everything you do, that sort of thing. So yeah, Tony Robbins would be a massive one. And I'm going to say, last spot. Do you know what I'm going to say? Kanye West. I know he's done a recent podcast, which I've seen part of. I'm going to get into it properly recently with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Mate, I've said this, I must have said this a dozen times this week because I've just watched the first part of his podcast. I said this years ago, and now he's come into the limelight with Joe Rogan again. I'll say this again. Kanye West is a genius. Mark my words. People will be looking at me sideways now, yeah? Kanye West is a genius by the definition of the word. I know he's a bit extravagant and he's out there, but most geniuses are.
Yeah.
Kanye West is the way his thought process and the way he works, he does next level. Honestly.
I don't think he's same with most geniuses, as you've said there. I don't think he's truly appreciated in his time. Do you get what I mean? I think he's someone people will look back on and be like, yeah, he was probably the same with Nips as well. To be fair, I think a lot of people didn't appreciate him until afterwards, or didn't realize just how much he did until afterwards.
Exactly, and he was everywhere when everyone was talking about him then, and he kind of took off from there. But yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, that'd be my 3. That'd be my 3.
Okay, then, mate. So what are you serving them? So you've got 3 meals: starter, main, and dessert. What are you serving them and why? Ooh. You don't have to cook it. You can get it bought in. But if you're any good, if you're any good at cooking, you can, mate. It's up to you.
Nah, can I get the missus to cook it?
Yeah, crack on.
Starters. I don't really put much thought into my starters normally. I'm normally with starters, I'm like a calamari guy, but it's got to be a large portion, probably like a main portion of it. Just for starters.
It's probably because you're 8 foot, that, mate, to be fair.
I like the seafood, so that'd kick me off nicely there. My mains would be, my go-to's got to be Caribbean food. So do I want an ackee and saltfish, or do I want a jerk chicken with rice and peas?
Both, mate. Fuck it.
Yeah, getting both in there. I was going to say, Martin, one of the last times I seen Martin outside of where it was, 900 degrees. I went there last week again.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord, what a pizza. What a pizza it is there.
Mate, that's my favourite food, pizza.
Mate, what a pizza. I forgot how good it was. We went there on the off chance and it's unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. My dessert would be, I'm not a dessert person, not got a sweet tooth. What I do if I'm out in a restaurant is I get an Irish coffee. Decaf Irish coffee, bam, that sets me off. So obviously don't stay up too late, but yeah, that's me.
So you're going for the coffees instead of dessert?
Yeah.
Okay.
Irish coffee, mate. Irish coffee. It's got to have the whiskey.
Got to get it in there. Okay. And then just last one, Ned. Go for it, mate.
Yeah. So you're stranded on a desert island. You can have one album, music album, and one album only. What is it and why?
it's all through my growing up would have been Tupac, but it's not. I know exactly what it is straight off the bat. It's Nip, Victory Lap, Nipsey Hussle.
Good album.
Yeah, and when you delve into him a little bit, there's some good documentaries on YouTube about Nip as well. When you delve into him a little bit more and see what he was about and what made him tick and how much of a visionary he was, and then you listen back to his albums, especially that last one, Victory Lap, and you tie it in together, it's like it just opens your eyes to a lot. So again, like Dan said, ahead of his time, but what an album that was. That's me.
Brilliant. No, that's great, mate. Some good shouts in there. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there, mate. Massive thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. For all of the listeners tuning in, if you click onto the subscribe button, that'd be great. You'll get a notification through of every episode that we have released. But other than that, thanks again for listening. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Martin, for jumping on. And we'll catch you all soon. Have a good one.